Welcome to Leadership Matters
with Dr. Cheryl White, Dr. Andre Howard, and Dr. Loretta Howard.
This is your forum for exploring and discussing challenges that are faced by public and nonprofit leaders. And now, Leadership Matters.
Later.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders and inspiring solutions. I'm Dr. Loretta Howard, the lead co-host today, and I'm delighted to have with me, as always, my co-host, Dr. Cheryl White and Dr. Andre Howard.
Hello,
How are you
hello.
all today?
Doing well.
Good.
It's hot up in here, but we're doing well.
Yeah, we're just trying to stay cool.
Right.
Okay, this week we're continuing our discussion on leadership and stress. And joining us today is Dr. Yvonne Bell-Gooden, who is a colleague and friend of mine, and I'm so honored to have her on our show today. Dr. Bell-Gooden is a licensed professional counselor with over 30 years in behavioral health field, serving primarily in community-based settings, including federally qualified health centers in Milwaukee County as both a clinician and a director. Federally qualified health centers again, plus she has her clinical emphasis on PTSD, depression, anxiety, with extensive experience serving individuals living with comorbidities and chronic health conditions such as cardiac disease, diabetes, hypertension, HVI, and neurological disorders. Woo! She holds subspecialty training and certification in trauma-informed care, psychological testing, mood disorders, mental health first aid, and primary care behavioral health integration. Dr. Bell-Gooden earned her PhD in counseling psychology from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Woo! Yay! And currently serves as program director and mental health advisor at Word of Hope Ministries. She's a clinical psychotherapist at West Care, Wisconsin. She also has her own private consulting firm, and she works with community-based organizations. So I am so delighted to have you, Dr. Gooden. Welcome.
Thank you, both Dr. Howard and Dr. White. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for asking me. I'm very excited. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Great. The way we start our show off is we like to go with some audience questions. So I'm going to ask, we usually have two of them. So I'm going to ask Dr. Cheryl to answer the first one, and then Dr. Dre to answer answer after that, and then Dr. Gooden give you an opportunity to actually answer the question. So we always get some amazing audience questions, and we're really happy about that. So this first one is, what advice would you give to other leaders who are facing stressful personal challenges but feel like they can't let their guard down at work? Dr. Cheryl.
Okay. Well, I would say, first of all, it's okay to be human, and it's not stepping out of leadership to be human. So I would want to acknowledge that first, and that it is okay to allow others to know that there are some things that you're being challenged with, that you're dealing with. They don't have to know details, but there may be a small circle that you want to confide in so that they understand and know that maybe you are going to need to delegate some additional things for a bit and tighten up what you might see as priorities, because sometimes we don't have the capacity for everything, and let those around you shine. That might be an opportunity to give them some stretch assignments and so on and so forth. And as our guests have been saying, I guess all month, you can't, and then Dr. Dre, I think you said your mom taught you can't pour from an empty vessel. Mm-hmm. So it becomes important during that period of time that you're taking care of yourself, and do what you need to do for yourself. And sometimes we might need a confidential person to speak to. So that may be us using our medical insurance or EAP to talk to someone, or it may be a leadership coach, or like I say, a therapist. Sometimes we just need someone to help us bounce off things when there's so many things going on. that it might help me put together a plan for prioritizing or plan for delegating or a plan for stretch assignments while we can get through that difficult season.
Great, thank you. Dr. Dre?
Yeah, I think Dr. White said a lot in terms of what I probably would have offered in terms of response to this question. But I say, there's a difference again. I was thinking about this. There's a difference between letting your guard down and letting your people down, right? And most leaders confuse the two and get it twisted. You don't owe your team every detail of your personal life, but you
Mm-hmm.
do owe them honesty about your own humanness,
Mm-hmm.
your own humanity. I think, when a leader's walking through something that's difficult, complicated, complex, heavy, it's okay to say that, look, team, I'm going through something. Don't need to share everything with you. I'm not 100% this week, without unpacking your
Mm-hmm.
whole suitcase, right? So that's not weakness. That's just modeling. Again, we talk about emotional regulation, keeping
Mm-hmm.
healthy, dealing with stress in a very positive way. That's what that looks like. And the last thing I'll just add to that piece is, I was thinking, your team already knows when you're going through some stuff, right? And so people can read a leader long before the leader says a word. So stop pretending. That's extra stress. We are so done with pretenders. I'm so done with pretenders. And so what that, when we pretend as leaders like we've got it all under control, we're teaching our team to pretend as well. And we really want to foster authenticity and just being open and frank and honest to a certain degree. So I would just offer that in addition to what Dr. White has shared.
Thank you. Dr. Bell Gooden?
I think everything that has already been said is amazing. I will add to that by saying, when Dr. Dre said, the honesty and the transparency with your team, often I will share with people, I'm like, this is out of my field of expertise. Because we do, when we're in leadership roles, we feel like we have to be the experts at everything. And the reality is that we're not. And being honest and showing people, it's okay to not know everything. It's okay to not be like the person who has all the answers. Gives them the opportunity to say, okay, so if you don't know, it's okay for me not to know, but we can figure out together how to find the answer. The other thing that I recommend too is that have your colleagues, because each of us have our networks that we interact with. So a lot of times when there are issues that I'm struggling with either my team or in past leadership positions, I always had a go-to group of individuals that I will bounce things off of. And sometimes those individuals may be in the same area of work that I do, but they can be also in other areas, because I think what we tend to forget is that with leadership, our responsibilities may be the same, maybe showing itself in a different way, whether it's in education, administration, business, healthcare. There are still elements where we all have certain responsibilities that mirror each other. And being able to have a fresh set of ears, a fresh set of eyes to say, I've had that experience too. This is what I would recommend that you do, becomes helpful, because that person can also relate to what's being said, and maybe have you take a step back and say, okay, maybe you're not viewing it as accurately as you could. So maybe consider this and go back to the drawing board. So I think with all the things that have already been said, I would just say, have your group that you can bounce things off of, and be okay with saying, you know what, I don't know. I don't have the answers. It's okay not to have all the answers, but guess what? We can figure it out together. And that takes off a level of stress.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I agree with everything all of you said. And I do like that part about having people to bounce that information off, having a support group, someone you can just sit down and have those honest conversations with. And you don't know everything. We don't have to be perfect. Trying to be perfect is too stressful. So if we don't know, we don't know. But go to someone who might know. Other people have answers, like you were saying. So I love it. Thank you so much, everyone. And I am going to turn it over to Dr. Sherrill, who will start us off with opening questions.
Okay, great. Well, Dr. Gooden, welcome to Leadership Matters. We're so pleased to have you here. 30 years in behavioral health, from clinician to director in Milwaukee's Federal Qualified Health Centers is quite an accomplishment. So
Thank
we
you.
say congratulations to you and your own leadership journey. Before we
you.
jump into stress, could you tell our listeners more? I know Dr. Loretta shared some about you, but what might you add with regards to who is Dr. Yvonne Bell Gooden and what called you to this work?
Oh, that is an interesting question because I remember starting off in school and they would always ask the question, and we had to do our letter of interest. And it would say, why do you want to do this work? And the templated answer is because I like helping people. But you can help people in various industries and organizations and fields of practice. But one of the things that I found important to me was it stemmed from the fact of working in the community and seeing many of the people who look like me not getting the support that they needed and trying to figure out how can I best serve in any capacity because I've been fortunate to teach at the university level as well. And while I found that intriguing and interesting, I'll leave that to Dr. Howard. That is not my strong suit, but I do okay. But I'm kind of a person who I like to try my hands at different things and try to provide support in various venues when given the opportunity. As a mother of four, I'm very engaged with my children's lives, making sure that they have an opportunity to be exposed to a lot of different things and getting them involved in volunteerism, which has expanded my view on things too, because growing up and working in healthcare and working in the community, giving back has always been important to me. So I volunteer a lot whenever and wherever I can. I like to try my hands at new things. Been very fortunate to gain a lot of experience doing things on the medical side as well, from bariatric work and evaluations to doing other behavioral medicine things, figuring out how the mind and body works together. And when we don't care for ourselves, how those things intersect with each other, and being able to go in the community in different venues, from working with the city to the county to just, boys and girls clubs, just to talk to the community about how we need to educate ourselves around the importance of taking care of ourselves. And a lot of those things were done through volunteerism. Because I think it's important to give back. So I kind of danced around your question a little bit. I was trying to cover a little bit of everything, but I think I'm a person who just enjoys helping people, providing information and support, and teaching other people to know what I know, but then go beyond what I know so that that torch can continue to be carried by other people, because we can't practice forever. We can't do what we do forever. So sharing information with other people to educate them so that they can continue to educate the people beyond them to be our best selves and to do our best. So
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Dr. Drake.
Yeah, I'll throw this one. I know we've a couple of minutes before we take a break, but you've led in a community-based setting, serving people carrying enormous burdens. When you stepped from a clinician into the director's chair, what surprised you most about the weight leaders carry?
It's very interesting because, and I'll explain it from two different ways. From a federally qualified health center, because the resources are not as great, we were taught early on that we have to wear multiple hats, which I found extends across all disciplines. It doesn't matter, right? But you learn that even in your multitasking, assuming that people can handle the responsibilities that are given to them is not always true, because we don't know what things they're bringing into the position with them. And so one of the things I found, which was key, was learning who was the person in front of me, right? What needs did they have, and how could I support them in the best way possible to help them function at their best? Because we forget that. We assume that when people come to work, they come work ready. They don't have any challenges in their personal life. They're ready to go. But no different than us, they have their daily stressors. They have their responsibilities. They have these expectations placed on them by others who don't always understand what's going on. So I think the biggest thing I learned beyond multitasking is, who is the person in front of me? How do I best support them so they can be their best self, so that we can come together collaboratively to produce the best outcome possible?
That's great. Great. Thank you. Appreciate
Great.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we are going to get ready and take a short break. And when we return, we'll continue with our conversation with leaders and stress with Dr. Yvonne Bell Gooden. So please stay tuned, and we'll be right back for more Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders and inspiring solutions.
Leadership Matters is brought to you by Innovisions. Need to improve leadership, staff, or organization performance? Contact Innovisions today for quality, effective, and affordable leadership, staff, and organization development training, coaching, and consulting services. Call 619-453-8093. That's 619-453-8093. Or send an email to Dr. White. Her email address is swhite@neighborhoodhouse.org. Innovisions is a social enterprise of the Neighborhood House Association of San Diego, California. Funds raised go to support the Neighborhood House Association's mission to enrich lives through a continuum of education and wellness service.
All right, we are back with more Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Loretta Howard, our lead co-host for today, along with Dr. Cheryl White and Dr. Andre Howard, and our very special guest, Dr. Yvonne Bell Gooden, who we are so pleased to have you here today talking to us about leaders and stress. So right now, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dre, who has an amazing announcement for us all.
Well, I think we've been talking about this. We had the first session, and so that went, and now we've got another opportunity for folks who were not able to join us back in June to join us in September 25th. Talk about stress. Dealing with conflict is stressful. And so, on the 25th, we're going to, with the doctors, going to lead a discussion of strategies for dealing with conflict. I think we still have a few seats left. So, when you want to grab your space, take that QR code and lock your registration in. Bring a team with you as part of the process. But we're going to have leaders from across the nation talking about various strategies, small group discussions, and really become re-energized around how we use conflict to better ourselves as leaders and not make it so much stressful in terms of the experiences. So really excited about this engagement and looking forward to folks joining us from across the country. So be with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. All right, we're going to turn it over to Dr. White.
All right. So, Dr. Gooden,
Yes,
another
ma'am.
great question for you.
All right.
I know that we often feel as if, stress is different for leaders. But, coming from where you sit clinically, do leaders experience stress differently? Or do we just kind of tell ourselves that we do?
It's a little bit of a complex question because, on one hand, no, we don't experience it differently, right? Because stress is stress. When stress impacts us, it impacts us physically, psychologically, and emotionally, right? However, because we're wearing that leadership hat, and oftentimes when we're dealing with our team, there's this assumption that they don't understand. But there's that other dichotomy of how much do we share with our team? How much do we feel like we need to share with our team? Depending on what we choose to share or not share, we may feel like and oftentimes isolate ourselves from our team to believe that the stress that we carry is a lot bigger than our team. But I would say it's not because our team is struggling, because we're not communicating sometimes effectively with them. And they're trying to figure out, is it something we're not doing? Is it something we can support better? And oftentimes, because of that misconnection, it creates a kind of unspoken miscommunication, which can lead to more stress on both sides.
Yes. So well said. I'd say, yeah, in particular, if you have a supervisor, maybe like Dr. Dre, basically. I'm
Here we
just
go.
teasing.
I was
He's
trying to be
our
nice today.
agitator.
Trying to be nice. Trying to be
Yeah.
nice.
Your supervisor could be the stressor. I'm totally
Boy.
kidding. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gooden.
Yeah. And you were not kidding, Dr. White. So it's all good, though. All good. Dr. Gooding, really enjoying the conversation. I mean, it's interesting to think about the title of this show, right? Talk about leaders in stress when the body sends the bill. And boy, when that bill comes, it's huge. When the body sends the bill. But a lot of leaders are listening now, believe that pushing through is the job. And let me just push through this. Let me just get through this. But at what point, though, does pushing through stop being a strength and starts become self-harm?
Well, our body sends us subtle warning signs. And most times when it sends us those warning signs, we ignore them. Sometimes the subtle warning signs are fatigue. Sometimes it's our inability to concentrate. Sometimes it's our forgetting to complete tasks. Or even if we become short-tempered with people, we make excuses and we'll say, oh, I didn't get enough sleep. I took on too much, or we try to dismiss those things that are happening. But as we continue to ignore those things, the body does what I call, it likes to amp things up a little bit. So we start to feel it more physically in our body. So we start to feel tension in our body. We may begin to feel shortness of breath, chest pain, cramping throughout the body. And that's our body's way of saying, hey, you're not listening to me. I need to amp this up a little bit. And even still, we will make excuses about why, this is happening. Well, I shouldn't have eaten this, or maybe I worked out too much. We continue to make these excuses because we refuse to recognize that, hey, we're overextending ourselves. Hey, we can get support if we need it, because we have put on this mask, if you will, that we have to be these super, super leaders who can handle and do all things. And then our body finally gets frustrated and says, you know what, I've had enough. Then it starts to do things like shut down. So they have a stroke. Unfortunately, we may have a heart attack. We develop health changes like diabetes, hypertension. All of these things can happen. And people say, well, I'm a healthy eater. I work out. I do all these things. But what happens is that stress is kind of like that silent killer, if you will. Because it tells you the things that you need to know to prepare you to step back and say, I'm doing too much. But we continue to ignore that because we feel like we have to. And I don't know sometimes if it's a message that we get from external factors, or sometimes it's messages that we tell ourselves that in order to be our best selves, we have to function at a certain level. And all of it is misleading because our body lets us know, hey, we're doing too much. And it gives us those signs, but we continue to ignore them. And that's when it becomes dangerous.
Good. I totally agree. But I mean, the other argument we've been making though too is that if you're going to be a super leader, if you're going to be an example, that pushing through is okay. And I think some leaders, like you said, Dr. Gooden, have fallen into the fallacy that going through, pushing yourself hard, sweating it out, letting other folks know you work 15 hours a day, you take a 2 hour, you take 2 hours of sleep at night, get back up early in the morning, start doing the think tank. I mean, people have adopted that, that position as this is what a good super leader looks like. And I think our society is, like you said, pushed us into that, as well as being reinforced, self-reinforced as part of that process. So, but you do agree though, if a super leader doesn't push themselves, they can be tagged as lazy leaders as well, though, right?
Oh, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I've had two sides. I've had two different leadership types come at me. One leadership type says, you're the first to arrive and you're the last to leave.
Right.
And what does that mean in terms of work-life balance?
Yeah.
How do you then take care of yourself? How do you then connect with the other people outside who are very important to you, that you value, your family, you know, your friends? How do you create that balance where you know that you're okay and you're getting that external support that you need that reinforces self-care?
Right.
Because we realize self-care is important, but
That's right.
you have some leadership that says, hey, first in, last out.
Right.
This is what you got to do to succeed. This is how you know you're at the top of your game. Well, we know that even that has a short life, right?
Right.
Because of some of those factors I've explained. But I've also had the other leadership type that says, hey, in order to be your best self, you have to have that balance of taking care of you, being able to engage with your family, engage with those people who remind you that you are important. You know, if you don't finish it today, it'll be there tomorrow.
Mhm.
The unfortunate part about that, though, is that there's a lot less or a lot fewer those type of leaderships out there existing to encourage that work-life balance.
Right.
And we see more of this go, 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 go. You got to push, you got to thrive. And if you're not doing these things, you're not successful.
That's
And
right.
reality is that's not true.
Right. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Wonderful answer. Thank you. Dr. Gooden, leaders are often the last to admit that they're struggling. So, in your practice, how do high functioning people describe their stress? Do they even use words that they need help? What do they say instead of that?
Oh, they first of all, they don't own the stress.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because part of it is about owning it. I mean, leaders do, and I hate to say this, we do a very bad job sometimes of owning it because we don't really know how to label it.
Mm.
We're mislabeling it. We just say, oh, I'm a little overwhelmed. I may have taken on a little too much this week or yesterday, right? We want to minimize what we identify as something that's been going on for a significant period of time.
Yeah.
And what that does is that allows us to say, I don't have to take ownership of this. And if I don't take ownership of this, that means it's not me. It's not happening to me. And the reality is, it is, and it's happening every day and it's happening all the time. And so the more we dampen it or we minimize it or we ignore it, then we don't have to recognize really what's happening and what it's
Right.
doing to us. And particularly if other people in the same role as us don't identify it, or if we're talking to them and saying, man, that was a lot that I had to do. Did you see all that stuff that was placed on me? And that person next to you who does just as much. Oh, what do you mean? It wasn't that difficult. It wasn't that hard. I pushed through, as you said, Dr. Dre. I pushed through it. I did it. And you just, you'll be all right. They're minimizing, you're reaching out and you're saying, hey, this is what's happening to me. I need support. And if the people that you're reaching out to for support to say, this is what's wrong, are not validating you, you're not going to name it.
Right.
So oftentimes we don't name it. And if we do, we use lighter words that don't carry a heavier weight to it because words have meaning and they have value.
Yes.
And if we pick those words that have more of a negative connotation to them, what does that say about us? Because then we start to personalize it, right? Because now we're getting strange looks, we're getting non-confirmatory feedback from our colleagues that suggest that maybe it's us and it's not the work itself, or it's not our supervisors making the demands on us to complete these things. Maybe we're reading it wrong. And the reality is we're reading it correctly. It's that what do we do with it once we're reading it? Do we own it and say, nope, this is too much. I need to dial it back a little bit. I'm taking on too much. Or do we say, well, let me go with the majority and not complain because I don't want to be seen as a complainer or the non-compliant leader who can't handle their weight. So to answer your question, I don't think we really do label it. I think we dismiss it on many levels, or we minimize the impact or the reality of what it truly is for us.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely hear people say, you know, I'm burnt out. I'm just so tired. I'm overwhelmed. Unless they hear somebody else own it too, because then they won't feel like they're by themselves, that it's just happening to them. Because nobody wants to feel like it's an isolated I situation. Because if it's an isolated I situation, then maybe I'm not managing well. when the reality is that it's a lot of us that are not managing well.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying. And well, you know me well, Dr. Gooden, because we work together.
Yes.
Because recently someone had sent, they wanted me to do something, and I sent an email back and said, no, I'm overwhelmed. I have too many things, and I have all these due dates with these, the grants and the funding
Mhm.
and things. And it's like, that's my priority. You need to find somebody else to help with that. And it felt so good to say that because it's like, no, I can't. No, I can't right now. I've got to get this done, and that's what I'm gonna do. And they were really okay with it. It's like, okay, good, because I can do this.
But that's that fear, Dr. Howard, though. What if we say no, right?
Yeah,
What does it mean to say no?
Right.
right.
What are
Yeah,
the ramifications of saying no to somebody, right?
Right.
Are we going to be perceived negatively? Are we going to still be embraced? Are we going to still be seen as competent, right?
right.
Right.
But the payout of saying no is, wow, I don't have to take on something that's not mine,
Right. Absolutely.
right? Yep.
Exactly. Yes,
I'm thinking, Dr.
exactly.
Loretta, you've gotta know it that you probably got called a few names under folks' breath. So I mean, that's gotta bother you. That's gotta keep you up at night. I'm
Here's
sure.
the
I'm
thing.
sure you had a few names called at you. I'm sure they called you some stuff.
They may have called me a few, but I might have called them a few too. And with that, we're
Okay.
going to take another break.
Okay.
And
Okay.
when we return, we will go into some more issues with leadership, stress, and chronic disease with our very special guest, Dr. Yvonne Bell Gooden. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders and inspiring solutions.
Howard Communication Strategy Consultants, building stronger organizations through people. In today's rapidly changing business landscape, developing human capital is essential for companies to thrive. By investing in employee skills and fostering well-being, organizations can build a workforce with the expertise and adaptability needed to meet evolving challenges. Howard Communication Strategy Consultants, HCSC, provide detailed insights into current and future trends in human resource management and leadership development, allowing clients to streamline operations and lead with greater confidence. The team at HCSC works with companies of all sizes to evaluate current strategies, identify effective approaches, develop comprehensive plans, and measure progress regularly to ensure efforts deliver desired outcomes. With HCSC customized workshops and evaluations, experienced trainers develop programs tailored to each organization's specific needs and goals, resulting in improved employee engagement and effectiveness. Howard Communication Strategy Consultants. Call today and transform your workforce for tomorrow's success. 262-391-6076 or through email ask@howardcsc.com.
Okay, we are back with Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors. And we have our very special guest today, Dr. Yvonne Bell Gooden, who is working with us. The title of the show, which I love the title of the show, Leaders in Stress When the Body Sends the Bill. And Dr. Gooden has been sharing her expertise with us, and we are just loving that. Before we get back into our question and answer session, we are going to do our second audience question. So I'm going to start off with Dr. Dre, Dr. Cheryl, and then Dr. Gooden. How do you compress after a particularly stressful day at work to make sure stress doesn't spill over into your time with your family? I love these questions. So, okay, Dr. Dre, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, in full transparency, sometimes that's been difficult for me, but I think I've tried to get into more of a ritual, and so, for me, for example, the drive time home, with music instead of a phone call. I don't listen to news. I'm sorry, I put my chill music on, my gospel, other genres of music on, and just relax, and just be at peace. I think the other piece is my mental, right? My mental, making sure I do a mental shift to some degree as well. And so I make sure that I don't take work home with me, or I've defined exactly this is my cutoff time if I do have to do an assignment at home. So I've tried to stick to that as well. And just my faith and meditation, I think, is also help with some of that. And so those are some suggestions I would offer up to this particular person who sent this question, because I think it's really important. So, and I keep thinking about how brief and short life really is on this earth for all of us. And so we want to make the most of it and make what really counts count. And what you treasure the most is important to you, and make it known and show it and live by it too as well.
Absolutely. Dr. Cheryl?
Yeah, I think for me, decompressing after a particularly stressful day, my basic routine is to check my to-do list, like what did I not get done today that I need to do? Because once I write it down, I like the in Outlook they have the tools where you can do your to-do list. So I feel the joy of being able to, you know, knock off the things that I actually did get done and then add what I need to add so I don't have to try to remember it, but I can feel like it's in a place where I can pick it up. And I look at the calendar, see what I have tomorrow. And then for me, I can feel like I can put a bow on today, take a deep breath. And once I leave whatever space I'm in, if I'm working in the office and I get to my car, I'm done with work. If I'm in my home office, once I get out my home office chair and I go to another part of the house, I'm done. So I mean, that's really my process. And I'm opposite of you, Dr. Dre. I'll turn on the news.
Mm. No, no.
I will turn on the news. But for
Um,
me, that's not personal stress. That's just like I'm done with work so I can decompress and deal with the rest of the world outside of work. Once I've just kind of feel like I've put the right bow in what needs to be in place to pick it up for tomorrow, I take that deep breath. I feel like I can reset and move on forward.
mhm. Right.
Great, great. What about you, Dr. Gooden?
So there are two practices that I do. The first practice is in the morning, and I do a mindfulness practice, and I try to visualize how I want my day to be. And I try to anticipate potential things that would stress me and what I would try to do to manage those things. And what I mean by that is if I try to do a body scan in my mindfulness practice, and I can tell what things would stress me out. And when I start to feel that way, I go to a place that I kind of create in my head, a peaceful place. And so as I encounter things over the course of the day that may stress me out, I try to reflect back on what that peaceful place looks like. So that helps me get through the day. Now, when I get home, and this is something I had to teach my children, and so they know my routine because they're young adults now. When I get home, the first 30 minutes when I get home, nobody's allowed to engage with me.
Mm.
So I go to my room and I close the door and I sit and I try to reflect on the day, meaning like what was my stuff to carry, what was not my stuff to carry. Were the things that I allowed myself to stress about and worry about, are they things that were really significant enough to worry about? Because oftentimes I had started bringing things home that I didn't mean to come home with.
Mhm.
And then when the kids would talk to me, I would still be worked up and I would find myself irritated and I could see the reflection on their face. And I'm like, we got to figure this out. So when I got home, and it was funny because they would go, when they became teenagers, they were like, oh, right, you need 30 minutes. Okay. And they go to their respective rooms or spaces. And then after that 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, now you can come talk to me. Because then I was able to honestly hear what they wanted to share with me and take it and give feedback. And they weren't getting like a fraction of their mom or their work mom, and it wasn't off shifted. So those are the two practices that I still do now, even though I'm mostly in the house by myself. But it's a good practice because I stopped bringing things home, psychologically bringing me home. So
Wow, that is great. It is. Well, for me, and Dre understands it. When I come home, I am a TV person and I like British mysteries. I love to hear the accent of people
Hmm.
from the UK or Australia. I love that accent. And I like a good mystery. And I will just binge and zone, and he lets me do it. And then I'm good to go. So, but I always liked Perry Mason growing up.
I
So,
love Perry
and
Mason.
Agatha Christie stuff. So I like the whodunits. I do. So, and that is my decompress. It is. I will watch TV. So, there you have it, listeners. Okay. All right. So, Dr. Cheryl, we're going to turn it over to you.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to your clinical work. And I feel like I hear a little bit of an echo, Matt. Okay, great. So I know that you work with and you work centers on people that have chronic conditions, diabetes, hypertension, cardiac disease, HIV. So love to hear you maybe share
Mhm.
what's the connections between maybe chronic stress and actually what that chronic stress does for a leader's body, we might say over time.
So
Or
I
maybe
think
I should say does to a leader's body over time.
okay. So I think one of the important things to think about when we talk about this is that, chronic stress is like a major contributor to either the onset or progression or worsening of a lot of diseases that people are living with. A lot of times we can be pre-diabetic or we can be pre-hypertensive, or some people already are living with autoimmune disorders, right? And so when a person is dealing with chronic stress, what it does is it actually worsens the situation because what it does is it weakens the immune system. A lot of times when stress becomes to the point where it's chronic and it's overwhelming, the body goes into what's called a flight or fight situation where that system is always activated and it's always in overdrive. And when it's like that, what it does is it releases what's known as a stress hormone. And that stress hormone is either cortisol or adrenaline. So we're always feeling like we have to be in a hypervigilant mode. And when the body's under that type of duress all the time, initially we'll respond in a way to manage it. But then when it's constantly ongoing repeatedly, it starts to become normalized in a way where it's unhealthy. And so not only does it weaken the immune system, it raises our blood pressure and our heart rate. It disrupts our metabolism. So a lot of people start to gain weight, right? And they start to question, why am I gaining weight? I'm not eating anything. I'm exercising. But when your body's constantly in this fight or flight mode,
Mm-hmm.
cortisone is constantly moving, adrenaline constantly is moving. So your body doesn't have time to regulate itself like it's supposed to. For some people, it can either trigger or exacerbate inflammation in their body, right? So if you're already living with like an autoimmune deficiency or you have a chronic inflammatory disease, it's
Mm-hmm.
worsening those symptoms. And to add to that, so now you're not sure what's happening with your body. You may already be anxious. So now you're feeling depressed because you can't figure out what's happening. So now you're feeling a bit out of control. I'm not understanding, whether you're coming or going. So it increases your mental health symptoms too. So if you weren't experiencing depression before, that might become more frequent. If you weren't anxious before, you may see a heightened sense of anxiety coming out. And as I mentioned earlier, your cognition, your ability to process things, to manage things, to remember things, you start to experience some cognitive decline. And when we start to see these things, it becomes important not to dismiss them. But we do that all the time. So then it heightens things again. So we start having sleep problems. We're tired all the time. We start to have headaches, stomach aches. Some people even start to experience changes in their skin, skin irritation, burning, things like that. And so your body starts, as I was saying before, it starts to amp these things up.
Mm.
And when we're in these leadership roles, if we're just pushing through and pushing through, we're not doing well. And so one of the things we want to think about is, how do we manage these things, right? Well, this is when you come and see somebody like myself.
Hmm.
You can learn cognitive behavioral strategies to deal with stress, to improve your coping mechanisms that may have become ineffective. You learn new ones. There are other programs, like I talk about mindfulness. I do mindfulness practice all the time. Dr. Dre talks about meditation that he does, right? These different strategies you can use to manage your stress. Modify your lifestyle, work-life balance, right? What does your social support looks like? Just doing daily short things like taking deep breathing and deep breathing. I tell people all the time when I deal with clients, like, take 3 to 5 minutes a day. Just sit by yourself and take deep breaths just to let the stress out. Because what we don't realize is that when stress builds up in our body, it's creating toxins.
Right.
And those toxins are manifesting and they're weakening the immune system. So if you just sit and take 2 or 3 minutes and take several deep breaths in and out, you're allowing oxygen to come in to dispel all the negative toxins that you're building up in your system. So it's important.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad we're talking about the chronic disease piece. I think it's often something that's not talked about in the executive suite, right? Is chronic disease and how it's certainly attached to the level of stress that leaders deal with. But I hear a lot of leaders saying, "Well, I engage in a vigorous exercise program,
Mhm.
or I do, a lot of different stuff." So, so I'll never get high blood pressure or some of these chronic diseases we talk about. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a fallacy too, to some degree as well, right? That if I
Oh,
if I do a 2 hour workout, I will avoid any chronic disease and I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
yeah, so that's wrong. So remember, as I was saying, you got this influx between your cortisol
Yeah.
and adrenaline.
Right.
Those two systems are always in hypervigilance mode.
Mhm.
And if those things are always in hypervigilance mode, your body can't regulate itself the way it needs to,
Yeah.
because it's always in this sense of urgency. And so your heart is always racing, it's always moving. The body's not, it's pushing blood through the system faster than it needs to. So if the body can't self regulate and so slow itself down, very good candidate for hypertension,
Yeah.
very good candidate for diabetes, very good candidate for, unfortunately, having a heart attack.
Mhm.
And so even if you have the best exercise plan, the
Right.
best eating plan, if the body can't be at a resting state at some point in time on a consistent basis, the body can't reset and slow itself down to heal itself.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for that, Dr. Newton.
Yep, great. I see it's time for us to take another break. So we will return shortly with more of Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors and our very special guest, Dr. Yvonne Bell Gooden. So please stay tuned.
Leadership Matters is brought to you by Innovisions. Need to improve leadership, staff, or organization performance? Contact Innovisions today for quality, effective, and affordable leadership, staff, and organization development training, coaching, and consulting services. Call 619-453-8093. That's 619-453-8093. Or send an email to Dr. White. Her email address is swhite@neighborhoodhouse.org. Innovisions is a social enterprise of the Neighborhood House Association of San Diego, California. Funds raised go to support the Neighborhood House Association's mission to enrich lives through a continuum of education and wellness service.
And we are back once again with Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders and inspiring solutions. And as we said earlier, our very special guest is Dr. Yvonne Bell Gooden, who we are just enjoying this conversation because she's been a clinician, psychotherapist. So there's so much that we're learning about how we need to take care of ourselves. So we are glad to be back, and I am going to turn it over to Dr. Dre for our final segment.
Yeah, I just want to one more time just share our strategies for dealing with conflict. Seats are running out, so please do that QR code there. Love to have you join us for this insightful conversation. Lots of great engagement, lots of good conversation with folks across the country, being led by Dr. Cheryl, Dr. Loretta, and myself. So please join us for this wonderful event, September 25th through the Zoom tube. So. Great. Dr. Gooden, really have been enjoying the conversation. And again, this could be easily a 2-3 hour show. But now it's time for one of our favorite sections called Rapid Fire Round. So
Okay.
we don't want you to think about these questions too hard.
Okay.
Whatever comes to mind, we'll go from there. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, so here we go. One word for what stress does to a leader's body.
Burnout.
Okay. What should be first for a burned out leader, therapy or coaching?
Oh, that's a tough one, but I'm going to go with coaching.
Okay.
And I can explain that later.
Okay. All right. Biggest myth about burnout.
It won't happen to me.
Okay. The health number every leader should know.
Oh, health number. Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Mm.
911.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. There you go. Sleep, diet, or movement. Which one would you fix one if you
I'll
had
fix
to?
sleep.
Okay.
Sleep.
What is one film, podcast, book on mental health you would recommend to every leader?
Okay, so it's called the Anxious Achiever Podcast. I kind of
Okay.
cheated and looked this up. It's preventing burnout in a leadership role. So there's a podcast and there's a book, and I can give you that information at the end if you want to know who the author is.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
One habit you never compromise on.
Ooh, I haven't learned one yet.
Okay, all right, that's being honest. All right, finish this sentence. The strongest leaders are the ones who blank.
Realize that they can't do everything.
Okay, and best free stress reliever?
Take time for myself.
All right, and one thing you tell your 30-year-old self.
It is okay to not be perfect, and it's okay to ask for help.
Okay, great. Dr. Cheryl, Dr. Loretta, I'd love to ask you one of these rapid fire questions. How about number 7, the one habit you never compromise on? Dr. Loretta, Dr. Cheryl, how would you answer that?
For me, it's getting my sleep.
Okay.
I do not compromise on that. I
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
Or should I say taking a nap on the weekends?
Okay.
I take naps on Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Sounds
Great.
wonderful.
How about you, Dr. Cheryl?
I can't even think of one habit that I never compromise on. And it's funny, I kind of go back to that other earlier question, and I realize as an empty nester, it's easy for me to navigate from one space to another space, and I don't have any, it's a whole nother, I want to say, space to live in when you don't have others living with you, because it's like I just can do what I want to do most of the time. So it's really a good thing.
Great, great. And if I were to answer that habit and never compromise on it, would be me, myself, and I. I am a habit. I never compromise on it. All right.
Okay.
There we go. You like that one? There you go. That's a
Yeah.
stress reliever for you.
So
The
Dr.
habit I
Rick, can
need
go
to
back?
compromise on is food. Stop eating so much.
Yeah, that too. Exactly.
I need to compromise on that
Right,
with
right.
myself.
Right.
So Dr. Drake, can I go back and answer?
Yeah, please.
The reason why I say
Yeah, please.
coaching. So the reason why I say coaching is because therapy is always important, but coaching also teaches us that it's okay to have someone like ourselves teach us that it's okay not to be perfect.
Mhm.
When we can have someone who's in a linear role with us, that are doing the same things, and they're practicing the same behaviors of self-care, of setting boundaries, of learning how not to be perfect, teaches them how to pass that skill on to somebody else, because now they have someone showing them the importance of doing that.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the author's name is Maura, M as in Mary, Orra.
Okay.
She has two last names, Aaron. A is in Apple, A is in Apple, RONS hyphen Mele, MELE. She has a podcast on Anxious Achiever podcast, and it's about preventing burnout in leadership roles. She talks about evidence-based insights and practical applications, and her book is entitled the same thing.
Very cool.
So it will give leaders an opportunity to hear someone else's perspective about leadership, how to avoid that burnout aspect, and being able to manage those things. So that's why I say coaching, because coaching is important. Because sometimes even with therapy, there's a taboo around that. People don't want to always tell people they're going to therapy.
Right.
But wow, if you can get a coach who's practicing what they want you to practice, you can see it in action. So you see the application.
Right. Thank you.
Right. Great. I see we're getting close to the end of our session today, but I did want to ask you, Dr. Gooden, if any of our listeners wanted to connect with you, how could they contact you?
So I do have a website where if they want to ask me any questions, they can reach me at www.wiseandYellow, B as in boy, G as in George, LLC.org. And so they can drop me a question, they can request a service, and I'll be more than happy to get back to them because it links right to my email. Or they can email me at ybgconsultingllc at yahoo.com.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Dr. Dre, was there something Dr. Cheryl, any last comments? Anything
This
you
has
want
been,
to
I mean, this
add?
session, it went so fast. I mean, I think just the information that's being shared, I think, all leaders should pay attention to the information that was shared. Dr. Gooden really dropped some great knowledge, and just being able to take care of yourself, and really the piece around chronic diseases. I think we really underplay that as leaders. And I know so many fellow leaders who've had chronic diseases because of the stress element as part of that process. And so really just taking time to take care of yourself in all of this. There's lots of literature out there on the ill executive in the corner office in terms of, coming in sick every day, not being their best, not feeling their best because they don't take care of self and deal with their stress. And so I think this is right on point, right on target. Dr. Gooden shared with us this afternoon. So appreciate that.
Absolutely. Dr. Cheryl, final comment?
Yeah, I'll just say real quickly, similar to what Dr. Gooden said, I had a leader come in one time. He had perfect 360, doing great at work. When he walked in the door, he says, and I thought it was going to be a very easy session, but he walked in, he says, what I really need you to help me with is I walk in the house, I want to kick the dog, I want to push away my wife. I just like so, and I'm thinking, okay. But he looked really good. His 360, everybody loved him at work. But by the time he got home, he was spent. And so, similar to you, he let the family know that he needed to, when that garage door went up, he kind of created a space for him, his little safe haven. And the rule became he will walk in the house when he's got ready to walk in the house. Until then, nobody approach him. Just let him be, because that was where he wanted to go to re-energize. It made all the difference, in his ability to then be able to greet his family in a way that was going to be healthier and nourish those relationships. So anyway.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Well, Dr. Bell Gooden, thank you so much for being our guest today. And we just enjoyed everything. The time just went really too fast. We could have gone a few hours with this particular topic. And thank you to our listening audience. And we want you to keep sending us those wonderful questions. And we want you to send them to leadershipmatters@peoplesdoctors.org. That's leadershipmatters@peoplesdoctors.org. So please join us every Wednesday on YouTube at 2 p.m. Pacific Time, 4 p.m. Central Time, or download us at your convenience the next day on a Thursday on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Spotify. So until the next time on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, we are informing leaders, inspiring solutions, and remember, leadership isn't a title, it's an action. So stay curious, stay inspired, and lead boldly.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.